Thank you, triggers. Welcome to today's Cloudism, which we translate into I can alchemize my emotions. Cloudisms are everyday words and phrases that I use and coin to help you remember with ease ways to mentally reframe a situation, emotionally regulate, and spiritually connect to the now moment, especially with triggers, right? Hi, I'm Claudia Karuchi. I'm a Washington, D.C. based psychotherapist. I'm a psycho-spiritual coach, and I'm a fellow life traveler. So let's jump right in. First, let's define a few things. Triggers, in its purest form, a trigger is something that sets off a huge explosion. When a gun triggers, it sets off a huge explosion. Emotional or psychological triggers are events that happen from externally, but they can also happen internally that set off a huge explosion. Now, most of the time, when we say we are triggered by something, the emotions outweigh the actual stimulus. In other words, we're having a larger reaction than what's actually happening in the moment. And that's why we call it a trigger. It's not like we're watching a sad movie and we're having an even reaction to it. We get sad. But if we're watching a sad movie where we're sobbing and sobbing and sobbing, we're being triggered in some way. So the idea here is that our reaction to something that we're feeling either inside or reacting to outside outweighs the actual data point, the actual stimulus. Another thing that's important to define here is alchemy. And alchemy is said to be the forerunner of chemistry, where individuals would take base material, base matter, and convert it, transform it into gold or into some sort of elixir that would help people. And so the idea of alchemizing includes something that is base, that it's like turning coal into diamonds. It's a huge transformation that takes it from one form into another. It actually transforms it into another that has higher value. So I want you to memorize this. Thank you, triggers, because you lead me to my fault lines, which lead me to my goal why. Most of these triggers lead us to the great unconscious, lead us to wounds that we have repressed or suppressed. There's something that it's activating. That's why we call it a fault line. The first person I heard to describe it that way was Amanda Flaker. It leads us to the fault line, this place that can cause a lot of turbulence for us. And usually that's trauma or that's really deep, deep wounds. And so if we're on the healing journey, if we're doing meditation, if we're doing any practice that helps us go inside to heal because we ourselves want to be transformed, we have to be triggered sometimes to know that those wounds are even there. And so it is helpful to be in a psychotherapeutic setting with someone else who can help us dissect these triggers. It is helpful to be observing ourselves through meditation, through self-reflection, through journaling, because we can actually say, wow, my reaction to that was a lot bigger, really sent me spiraling. And some of the ways you know you're triggered is your heart starts racing, your breathing gets quicker, you maybe want to cry and cry and cry, or you might go into survival responses like fight, flee, fawn, freeze. You might want to run. You might want to hide. You might want to yell and scream. Now, when we are unconscious and we get triggers, because triggers tend to be unconscious, and we're not on any type of self realization journey, we will project the trigger. We will scream at the woman at Target. We will hit our child when we're triggered. We will move into actions that create more destabilization and destruction. When we are on a consciousness or a self awareness journey, we will notice it. We will notice that we were triggered. Sometimes, even when we move into action, but at least we can take responsibility for the fact that the trigger was inside of us. This is really important in parenting and in love relationships. It's important all around. Everything I talk about has the all is in the small and the small is in the all, which is the little things impact the big things and the big things impact the little things. So it doesn't matter. Us doing work on this will have ripple effects in all of our life. Some of the questions to have. First, memorize thank you triggers because it leads us to the fault lines that leads us to the gold mines. Okay? Because the gold mines are the places where we can go in and heal. And unless we can have a trigger that points to our wound over and over and over again, sometimes we won't know to go in and heal it. Some healing questions that a therapist might ask you, but that you might ask yourself right now is, what am I learning? Why am I triggered? What does this remind me of? And really get nice and quiet. What's the sleeping volcano, which I call the unconscious, that this is waking up? Maybe if I'm having a jealous triggered reaction, what's it pointing to? When was the first time I was jealous? Might be when you were 5 years old. When was the first time I felt this scared? What are the incidents that make me this angry? What's the trigger pointing to? Because if we stay only in our triggers, it always leads to destruction of the self, of others, of things, of situations. They self sabotage. So thank you, triggers, because you're leading me to the fault line that lead me to the gold mines. What are situations that help us? Right now in psychedelic psychotherapy, what they're finding is psychedelics that are FDA approved are helping us go inside into those wounds. They will bring up the unconscious. What's another thing that will do it? Relationships. That's why we're always triggered in relationships. Parenting will bring out our triggers. Traffic, not being able to complete something. There's all sorts of things that point us to the wound, to the fault line. And we can ask, what's making me feel this way? That feels out of proportion to what's actually happening. If you can ask that question, you are on an awareness and a consciousness path. It's the people who can't ask the question who are creating more destruction, who are still in the deep unconscious. But if you're able to ask this question, or to even say, which is pretty ambitious, thank you, triggers, because you lead to my healing. And so let's end where we started. You are the great chemist. You are the great alchemizer of your wounds. You can transform your wounds into your gifts. Just like taking a base matter and transforming it into gold. Listen, if this is helpful to you and you're thinking of someone right now that where this information could be helpful to them, please share it. Please like, please comment, definitely subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next Cloudism.